When we're trying to grow wealth, when should a client actually loop an accountant in? What's the ideal time?
At the beginning, and start with the end in mind, not just taking that next step, because again, where we see clients get hamstrung is not thinking about steps 2, 3, and 4.
So what are your philosophies around property buying and how do you use this with your client?
I've seen a lot of strategies online when it comes to property. Look, all strategies can work, but my personal philosophy is that I prefer to let the market do the hard work and not me. So I personally prefer to buy existing properties and just hold it for a long period of time. And I just know it works.
Talking about creating wealth, generational wealth, what should parents actually be thinking of?
One, when do we want to give money to the kids? The other component is, back to estate planning. And then also things like insurance, that there's a need for it, particularly when you're building wealth. And then as we have wealth, we can then scale it back down.
Go slow to go fast, and we'll get there. Doesn't matter how long it takes, but we'll get there safely, and it won't stunt your growth. It will keep you moving forward. Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Finances Property That. Back to my mini-series. This is part 3 or episode 3 of 4. And today I'm going to talk to you about what a real finance and property strategy actually looks like. We're going to cover why we do strategy before property, always. The 3 things your strategy needs to answer. And what's now possible when these things all align. I reckon this is going to be pretty juicy, so let's get into it. So whenever I'm talking to any of my clients, I don't do any loan applications. I always start with the strategy. What does it look like? What do we need to do? What does it currently look like versus what does it need to look like to your goals? Most people will find a property and then call their broker or bank, whichever you want to go with. We want to flip that. Before you buy anything, you need to know your borrowing capacity and lender sequencing or borrowing sequencing across maybe a 3 to 5 year horizon. How you structure affects your tax position, affects what your equity trajectory could look like, and it also affects your borrowing capacity. That's a blueprint. Then once you have your blueprint, that's when you can go shopping. We can link you up with the correct people to execute the strategy. Because having a finance strategy is useless without the execution. It's the same as having a property strategy. It's useless without the execution. Building the right team helps you execute more efficiently and with an unbiased approach. The 3 things that your strategy needs to answer is 1, what does your end goal, or what's your end goal? And what does your portfolio need to look like to get there? I can tell you most people don't even know how to do this, where to get it, and what does it even look like. Most people just pluck numbers out of the air and say, I just want to achieve that by then, but there's no method to the madness. 2, what can your finance structure support right now? And what needs to change before your next move? This is critical because you can't go buy property without finance. You can't lend money unless you have income, cash or equity, and a good credit file. So doing applications, I never submit applications without an absolute intent. I submit for settlement, not for just approving, and definitely not for getting declined. Absolutely not. 3, who is on your team and are they working together or are they in silos? This is really key because you want everyone communicating and you want everyone working together. So, if you've got a finance strategy and a property strategy, but the person finding you the property hasn't even aligned to it, what are they doing? You're with the wrong person. You need to be with people that align with what you're looking at. If your tax strategy and your finance strategy are not aligned because your accountant's saying, I want to do it this way, but your broker's saying, I want to do it this way, but they actually haven't had a conversation as to why, well, that's a problem because later on down the track, it's going to cause issues. Now, most people can't even answer all three of those questions, and that's the gap. What's now possible if all these three things aligned? Well, I've had multiple clients go from 1 to 2 properties to 4, 5, 6 properties, some in 12 months, some in 2 years, not by being lucky, but having a clear structure from day one. I've helped business owners unlock equity they didn't even know they had because their finance was restructured before, or the finance was looked at, reviewed, financials looked at, made sure it made sense, spoken to the accountant before we even approached the lender. The strategy just does not make things possible. It actually makes things repeatable. And this is what we want to achieve. On top of that, my clients had the right team around them. So important. A team that they knew, liked, and trusted. And also, more importantly, worked together. My portfolio blueprint exists because I got tired of watching capable people get average outcomes simply because nobody helped them plan first. My vision is to empower financial legacies for generations. In order to do that for generations, you need to have a plan, a clear finance plan and a clear property plan. As always, everyone, this information on this podcast is very general in nature. Doesn't take into consideration your personal circumstances. If you want to talk to me more about my portfolio blueprint and how that can help you, find me. I'm really simple at Dion Finance Specialist on LinkedIn. On Instagram, Dion Fernandez on LinkedIn, emergefinance.com.au, financespropertythat.com.au. All the links will be in the page in the show notes. But until the next episode, see you then.